The book The Winner Effect, How Power Affects Brain, changed the approach to entrepreneurship of founder Moreno Frankovich. And in this video, we are going to learn which lessons Moreno applied to his startup. First lesson is about small wins. When you start a business, you want to have the first sales revenues, but it takes a while and you can easily lose your motivation. But if you redefine your wins and successes, then you can even motivate yourself and feel more confident. For example, instead of just seeing revenue as your indicator for success, you can say just having interactions with prospects, just having a call, that is already a huge success for you because you learn so much from each interaction and you are one step closer to get a client. Another lesson from that book is about motivation. Many founders might overestimate the motivation part. And in the beginning, the motivation is very high to work on the startup. But then after a while, it gets lower and lower and many people stop. But motivation is actually not that important for you as a startup. It's more about discipline. For example, you could track your time 4 hours minimum to force yourself to work on the most important things. And the rest, you can do all the other things. And that way, you are sure to progress. And if you build habits, for example, if you do every morning 2 hours of the certain task that is the most important for you, you will get used to that. And when you accomplish that each day, you can be proud on yourself and that gives you additional boost. Another learning is about the growth mindset. As an entrepreneur, you don't know how to do many things, but you require to do all of those things. Otherwise, there is no one who can help you with that, especially with a limited budget. So if you say, I'm not good in sales, for example, it doesn't mean you cannot get better in sales. So force yourself to do uncomfortable things until they become comfortable. If you have success, you cannot assume that it will work all the time, but even success can have negative impact. Even if someone is winning several times, it doesn't mean he knows everything and that he's going to continue to win. You should stay humble, validate your ideas, and move forward. And now we are going to dive deeper into the lessons from that book in the interview with the entrepreneur. What is the principle, the basic principle of the book?
The main concept of the book is when you get small wins or when you get any kind of wins, you can just continue on that flow and get more wins from that. Once you get small wins, those few small wins add up to one big win, and then you can just continue down that route where with few small wins, you get a big win. Then with big wins, you just know, okay, this is a big win for me. I became a winner. This is a big win for me,
I've heard this advice. For example, as a business owner or agency owner, you can just start offering for free even your service in the beginning just to get some clients or customers. And that gives you so much more confidence that you can also start asking money.
In my experience, my first small wins were just getting meetings with clients. We did not sell anything, but just the fact that we got the meeting with them and get to talk with them, get what they are interested in, what is good in the platform, what is not good in the platform, what we should work on, and stuff like this. I was thinking that was actually a win because we had first meetings. And then those first few meetings became actual meetings that did convert. Although, as you said, first clients, we didn't even get paid for those first clients in money, in revenue. But we did get valuable information from them. What are they interested in? What we should build and what we should focus on and stuff like that. I would say that was a big win for us. And now we can just continue on that route, just getting more big wins and, of course, more small wins.
It's also interesting how you define wins. You can define wins if you earn a certain amount of money, which is a bit more difficult to control, Or you can just say, okay, what are the previous steps to get to the final goal to have 100,000 euros per year or per month revenue? What do I need to do that? And then you can say, okay, I need maybe 100 or 10 or 1,000 calls with potential clients, and 10% maybe will become our client. So my win is every single call with a potential customer.
I agree totally. Too many people just focus on money, which is not necessarily the most important thing. Sometimes the more important thing would be to get feedback from your clients and to know what they want. So then you could iterate on your product, on your platform, or on your software. With that information, you can create more valuable product, and then just revenue will start coming in. Talking with clients, getting new meetings, getting new information, getting feedback from clients is potentially more valuable than just money, than just revenue.
That's so true. As a startup, you have so many unknown things that you have to test, have to discover. You cannot plan everything. That's not like employment where you just know, okay, you do this work and you will get your money. But as a startup, you have to learn what are the success factors, how to achieve. And oftentimes many things will be completely different than you expected.
Yeah, for sure. For founders that do not have much money, that do not have like investments, it's probably more harder because you cannot like do some market research, even small market research. You can just go and ask your clients, but first you need those first clients, you need those first meetings to get that information. That's probably most valuable in early stages of startups.
What are other insights from this book that you found fascinating?
It was talking about son of Pablo Picasso. He was doing drugs. He was drinking all the time. He did not manage for his family. His main source of money was his father. And what the book said is actually that he saw his father as a guy with those skills he got from birth. So he did not work on those skills. He did not learn anything from his birth. He was just like a major talent and he didn't need to work from this. And in reality, that is not true. So we all know Pablo Picasso from his early stages in life. He was drawing, he was painting, he was doing all sorts of things. And in his lifetime, he had like few thousands or even tens of thousands of his paintings. And that's actually, imagine the hours spent on that. So that's like more than 10,000 hours spent for sure on his craft. And his son did not saw that. Maybe that was a problem where Picasso was just telling him, yeah, I was born with this. I did not have to work for this too much. I was just born with it. While that's not exactly true. What we can get from that is we need to work on our skills. That the talent that we are born with is not everything. Talent is maybe just a small part of being able to work on our skills and just put in the hours, get good at what we are doing at our skills. So then we can start eventually getting money, getting revenue, or whatever the goal is. The fact is that we need to know that we are able to do it and that we are not born with talent. That's one major thing that I got from that book. Not talent, just put in work, and that work will eventually result in something great, something powerful.
Yeah, I've heard that you can have the growth mindset or the fixed mindset. And with the fixed mindset, you think, okay, all your strengths are based in your talent and it's fixed. You cannot become worse or you cannot become better. And whenever you do a mistake with a fixed mindset, you try to hide it because, okay, if I did something not very smart, and that means I'm not smart, which is not true. It's everyone makes mistakes, and even in contrary, the more mistakes you make, the better you become. And
For sure.
I also thought to myself that I can't do certain things. Even like 3 years ago, I met another podcaster who had a very teeny tiny audience. I was thinking I couldn't do that the same. Like I couldn't be a host of a podcast.
Yeah. I agree totally. People sometimes, and I myself, of course, just get stuck on like tools that were given on your birth. And sometimes we just get stuck in this, as you said, and maybe we think we cannot work on anything else. We need to work at stuff that we're good at. But in my opinion now, I would say that's actually a wrong point of view. We need to work on stuff that we are not good at, and then we are growing. Then we can get some growth, we can get some traction, and then we start to become the winners.
Especially as an entrepreneur, you cannot afford to not work on certain things that you think you are not good at. In your case, for example, you are a developer, but you had to learn some marketing basics at least, because otherwise, even if you had people who would do that, you have to understand the basics, the overall. Otherwise, you cannot tell them what to do, and you cannot understand them what they are trying to do to accomplish.
Yeah, for sure. Probably as a startup founder, I had to learn a bunch of new stuff which were not related to developing software or any of that stuff. But basic knowledge needs to be there. As you said, if I employ someone to do those stuff, which actually is probably the goal, right? To have some people that have experience in certain areas like marketing, as you said. But I need to have some basic knowledge so that I can say, okay, this is good that you're doing, but maybe we can try this other stuff, because also maybe from their point of view, they had experience in one thing and they just want to stick with that. But maybe that's not the best thing that we should be doing, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, that happens so often. Entrepreneurs hire some kind of marketer, but marketer is not marketer. It's like developer. It's such a huge difference whether you are Java developer, Python developer, PHP developer, WordPress, like you are focused on Shopify and so on. And the same with marketing. If someone is SEO expert or social media expert, that's his solution for every, usually for every problem, but it's not, might not be your solution.
Yeah, I've tried hiring few people, and in these early stages, I found that maybe it's not the time for this, and just try to learn some stuff, or try to go brute force, contact people that I know, or contact directly through LinkedIn or stuff like this. But I needed to learn some stuff by myself and just keep learning and keep getting those small wins, you know.
One of my previous clients, he hired a chief finance officer, and the owner of this startup didn't care much. The mistakes from this CFO cost hundreds of thousands of euros. Clients were having debts for this company and he didn't push them. And it was not just coincidence, like one case, but it was all over the place. And they didn't count how much exactly they owe. It was a mess. So the entrepreneur should have also take a look in the numbers. And it's not like he can say, okay, it's not my fault, because it's his money.
Yeah.
In the end, it's his fault.
I mean, sometimes startup founders just get stuck with building the product. In my experience, often we need to pivot from just building to actually managing people, managing the whole business, which is, in my case, going from the developer to actually managing people, managing business, finance, marketing. And that's one thing that often founders do not get, and myself also. That's why at the back of my head, I often have mindset that I need to manage this, not just develop.
Absolutely, yes. If you don't want to do those other things, maybe employment or freelance or agency is a better solution. What did you learn from the book in terms of confidence and motivation?
In my opinion, there is no such thing as motivation. I mean, there is for sure, but we should not rely on motivation so much as we should in discipline. If we set a goal of, I don't know, 40, 60, 80, 100 hours a week, just as Nike said, just do it. Don't rely on motivation. That's probably most important part of it, because oftentimes in my case, when I was building the product and not getting the meetings, the motivation would just drop. If I was relying on motivation, I would not come to my first client. I would not get those first meetings. I would not build anything valuable. And that's just not a good thing to rely on. The motivation comes for sure. In my regular work day, I am motivated for, let's say, 10 to 20% of the day, but the rest of it is just doing it. Just don't give up, do the thing, and no motivation, just discipline.
Yeah, that's such a great advice for entrepreneurs. I think it's very common. You have a great, amazing idea, at least in your mind, and you are motivated really, and you are imagining how you are becoming Mark Zuckerberg. And then after a few weeks, after a few months, you realize, oh, the success is not that fast, and you need to do a lot of actually not such interesting tasks underneath most of the successes. Even someone in entertainment business like Mr. Beast, for example, how much he's analyzing stuff. It's not that exciting to just going through thousands of thumbnails, but it has to be done to become really great. And if you rely only on your motivation, you will give up after a very short period of time.
Yeah, for sure. You said that after a few months, people have second thoughts. And I had also one thing that comes to my head after a few months of building. Is this actually something that I think will work? Is this actually something that has value? And then after second thoughts, I think probably everyone who is building a business of their own, they have to have like a baseline where they just go back to that baseline and think about it in terms of, is this still something that could offer value? Is this still something that I want to do? For me, is as we are building AI agents in customer service, I would ask myself, am I still bullish on AI agents in customer service? Is this still something that can bring value to my clients? Every time it's just yes, yes, yes. And then I get the motivation for the next 1 hour. And then the rest of the day is just discipline. Okay, I said yes, there is value. Let's just continue building.
Yeah, and to improve discipline, in my opinion, if you do it over and over, like a routine, for example, every Monday you do half a day accounting or marketing or something like that, or you say, okay, every day I do 2 hours of marketing or sales, it becomes easier because you get used to this kind of cycle. And it's like with brushing teeth. In the beginning, you have to think about it, but then something is missing if you don't do it.
Yeah, I agree totally. Routine is probably most valuable when we're talking about discipline, just getting it over and over. And then after some time, you figure out that you don't even have to think about doing stuff. You're just doing it because you're used to it. Routine is the best.
So we learned that we need those wins to get this kind of a flow or to get those more confidence. But there is also the dark side of power and winning. Could you elaborate on that, please?
If we get those wins, we essentially become a great winner. That's perfect. But it could get into our head in a way that we think that all of our thoughts, all of the things that we do are just going to produce wins. And that's not true. Not every decision will be a win. That's one thing that we need to take care about, is not to just take ourselves for granted when we have those big wins, but actually think about those wins, think about what we are doing right now, because some of the conclusions and some of the stuff that we are doing right now, based on our history of winning, could not be a win this time. That could ruin some of the work that we were doing just because we got into our head. We think, okay, I'm the winner now and I can do whatever I want, but that's not true. That's why we should probably think about things 2 times, 3 times or whatever, and not just go and do the thing.
That's like you get overconfident in your abilities. It's like a Napoleon effect or something, where he was winning in Europe and then he was so confident, he went so far away to Russia and he felt like he's invincible, and no one is invincible. And I think we shouldn't assume that only if we won a few times that we are like winner, we are geniuses. We shouldn't put this kind of a label on us. It's not only can make you blind to risks, but it also puts a lot of pressure on you, from my experience.
That could actually put a poison in our minds, and we could expect too much of ourselves and then not care what our colleagues, our friends, or whatever think about what we are doing. And we could potentially break everything that we were doing so far. Yeah, we should really take into account that winning is great, but getting too confident could have a great impact.
I have another example, quick example. Mark Zuckerberg, he probably has such amazing experts around him, but he invested tens of billions of dollars into metaverse. And then he realized, after like 30 billions, it's not going anywhere. Oopsie.
Yeah, that's one pretty good example. I mean, I love the idea, but I would not use it. I guess metaverse in education and stuff like this, maybe for engineering, would be pretty useful. But as everyday tool, everyday software that some ordinary people would use, I would say no. That was probably the bad side of winner effect that Mark had.
We also underestimate how much luck you need to sometimes. Maybe there were at the same time tens or hundreds of Facebook clones that have also some kind of capabilities, but he had the right connections. It was like the right location, maybe some other things, and he became billionaire, and others failed in those areas. Moreno, it was such a great interview. It was very interesting to learn from that book. Thank you so much. What would be your last words to our audience?
Don't get caught up with your losses. Just continue on grinding, continue on building. Just have discipline. Don't worry about your talent. I didn't have talent, and I just with hard work. I just grinded all the way through the starting phases of the startup. Yeah, just have discipline. Don't worry about your negative sides. Just continue on doing what you actually need to do. And I'm sure you will get to your first wins.
Amazing. Very inspiring. Thank you so much. Would you like our audience to visit your website to connect with you on LinkedIn?
Yeah, sure. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. For the website, you can go on chatbots.cspace.ai and take a look at what we're building. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.